Welcome to the Sweet Spot Podcast, where we're all about helping players, coaches, and parents get the most out of the game. Whether you're stepping up to the plate, coaching from the dugout, or cheering from the stands, we got you covered with expert tips, strategies, and insights to make youth sports a better experience for everyone. Each episode, we'll share our own experiences and bring on special guests who will offer valuable advice on skill development, teamwork, and creating a positive environment for growth both on and off the field. So let's dive in and make the game even sweeter.
Play ball.
Welcome to another episode of the Sweet Spot Podcast. As you can tell, we're not in our studio. This is a treat. We have a very special guest for you guys today. Coach, welcome.
Appreciate you having you guys on. Yeah, being here. It's great to be here. And it was fun to see your team last night at the game as well. Absolutely. So those guys were dressed to impress. They were in their uniforms and ready to go. So and they were great fans at the same time because I heard them all game long. They were into it, man.
You gave them a good one. You gave them a good treat.
It was a fun game last night.
It was a 10th inning walk-off win, by the way. So
that's always a good one.
Yeah, against Miami.
Yeah,
on top of it. So it was the battle for the 305 last night, and it's always fun for our players and fans and administration and really anyone that's associated with FIU to be able to beat Miami. And so that was a big win for us. And we got one more matchup with them later in the year, so it should be a good one.
All right, you guys took down the series already, so
you're
in good shape.
Yeah. No, that's and they've got a great program. They're great guys. They do a fantastic job. And it's a healthy rivalry. I don't see any bad blood between the players, the staff members, things like that. But you can't lie. It means a little bit more when you play those guys and you're able to beat them because like I mentioned, those are games that. The fans, the alumni, the administration, the other coaches here at the, in the athletic department, it's special to them. And so it's great to represent all the alumni and fans of FIU out there.
Absolutely. So one of the things we want to talk about is why we're here, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're here because we want to highlight the community, South Florida community, whether it's, like you said, FIU, all the local schools. Look at this. This is an amazing setup. This is a treat for us.
Tremendous treat
for everybody at home, hopefully. So again, thank you for sharing the time with us and giving us the opportunity, and we're delighted to be here.
Absolutely, I appreciate it. It's an important thing. FIU has a really large role in the South Florida community. It's growing nationally. It's got a nationwide brand, but you cannot run into someone at FIU, in South Florida that isn't somehow associated with FIU, that had a friend or a relative or a child or a father or mother that works here, that went here, that has some association with the school. That's how big the impact is of FIU, especially here in South Florida. So it's great to have you guys here.
Absolutely. So covering bases, you've been here for 3 years, done an amazing job from the start. We were talking off the air. We have a friend that I remember when you got hired. He goes, "I think we got our guy," and I was like, "Yeah, really?" And then he's like, "Oh man, watch out!" So it's nice that obviously it did happen that way. It's been a steady climb every year.
Congrats on that, by the way. It's coming to fruition.
On your success and
Thank you.
Everything that you've done in those 3 years, and hopefully it extends into a lot further, a lot more highlights coming your way.
I appreciate that. This has been a special place that, to be fully transparent, I've had my eye on for a long time. I started my coaching career very early in the state of Florida. And the second job I ever had was actually, with across town. I was the volunteer for them early in my career and fell in love with the area, fell in love with the city, the passion that the people in South Florida have for baseball, the types of players that you're going to get to recruit and coach here at this program living in South Florida. And so, when the opportunity, came around, that it was really a no-brainer for me. That this felt like a great fit. I had enough experience recruiting in South Florida, recruiting the state of Florida, understood how important baseball is to the city of Miami and to South Florida. And so I had a great experience and felt comfortable in the city, bringing my family here, raising our children here. And so for me, it wasn't anything that, was a huge adjustment to move down here. I was very comfortable with it. And for us, I also felt like there was a good opportunity for someone that had familiarity with South Florida, but also an outside perspective of what we could do to hopefully take the next jump in our program. And that's going to start with recruiting South Florida players and the talent that's here, but also understanding that we're going to be able to beat some other schools and some big name schools nationally because of what we can offer here, how we can develop players, the staff that we've assembled, and really what our future and vision is for the program. And we've certainly taken, really big strides over the first couple of years. And every year we want to set a new standard, a higher standard, and continue to raise the benchmark for what FIU baseball looks like.
Nice. Now I have a question for you. Have you been hooked on Cuban coffee or?
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. It was actually, Alex Kelly is our sports supervisor. He's an administrator here. He was had a large role in the interview 3 years ago, and after I had accepted the job and everything had become official, he actually kind of joked with me that I knew you had a good shot to be our guy when I landed in the Miami airport. And he asked me how the flight was, and I think I'd woken up like at 5 a.m. or something. The interview, it was an early flight to get down here. And I actually grabbed a Cuban coffee in the airport.
And you were ready to rock,
and I was ready to go. And he asked me how I was doing. I said, well, it's a little early, but I got a Cuban coffee, on the way out here to meet you. And, he kind of joked that was when I knew, you had a chance to be our guy, because you can't get it anywhere, and when you leave Miami, espresso is not Cuban coffee.
Nope.
It can do the job in a pinch, but it's not Cuban coffee. It's not a colada.
It's
so,
not.
you gotta love the Cuban coffee for sure.
To dive in a little more into your journey, what was your first experience with the game, and how did you fall in love with baseball? Like, tell the audience more or less how that took place.
Yeah. I remember as a young kid, honestly playing everything. I was swinging a baseball bat, swinging a golf club, shooting basketball, throwing football, kicking a soccer ball. Loved being outside, loved playing with friends, loved playing, wiffle ball in the backyard or a game of horse in the driveway or whatever that was. And for most of my childhood, I played different sports. And, I think I always loved baseball, maybe just a little bit more, but I loved all of it. I loved, the camaraderie that comes along with being with a great group of friends and playing together. And, I just continued to work on my game. And for me, I fell in love with working on the game and then the rewards of the success afterwards. For me, when you got to hit when no one else was there, or stay late, or get the extra work in, or, beat everyone else to the field and get that extra work in. And, then the reward of that, when you get your opportunities in the games, in the big moments, was just something that was always incredibly satisfying for me. And, as my career developed, I really naturally gravitated towards baseball as I got older. Truthfully, because I was just best at it. I loved all the other sports. I played high school football. That's an absolute, blast and an opportunity to be able to do that. I think that's it's a fun sport and brings a whole nother element of things that you get to work through as an athlete, as a leader, as a communicator, and being around different types of teammates with different personalities, I think, can help with leadership skills, communication skills. But I did always have a feeling that my career, my future was going to be in baseball. And I just remember, I loved the work. I loved being in the cages. I loved, being at the field first. And for me, it was falling in love with the game first. It was falling in love with the work first. And then the games and the success and the winning was the reward to that.
So, successful career, Coastal Carolina. Where did you feel like that transition came, right? When you said, hey, you know what? I think I like coaching. I think I could do this. I think I'm going to be successful at it. Where did that come from?
It was not something that I had always dreamed of or knew I was going to do or thought I was going to do. I think one of the struggles for most young players as they get to the back part of their career is your entire life, you've only been identified as really a baseball player first. When you're in high school or you're in college and you go back home for Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever the case is, it's, how's baseball going? How's your season doing? How's the team going? And, even when you're a student athlete in college, I hate to say it, but most of our guys probably are here for the baseball part of it. And they're doing the academics because they understand that's what they're going to need to be successful past baseball. But when you eat, sleep, and breathe baseball, it's hard to really wrap your head around the next part of your life. You just kind of think you're going to play forever. Even if maybe in the back of your head, you're not a first-round draft pick or maybe a future big leaguer and things like that, there's still a big part of you that can't see your life past playing the game of baseball because it's all you've ever known. It's all you've ever done. It's the thing you've loved more than really anything else up until this point in your career. And so for me, it was always like, okay, well, I'm going to play in college and then I'll play in pro ball. And then there was just not really a lot of thought that came after that. And was very fortunate to play for a great coaching staff at Coastal Carolina, still stay in touch with those guys. We had great team success. I enjoyed my career there for sure. And, I had pretty much had my heart set on, being drafted and continuing my career that way. And reality set in very quick when I wasn't. You're watching the draft on the computer and watching the ticker, and then it's over, and your name wasn't called. And there's a moment of, oh boy, what now? What now? And for myself, I did get an opportunity to play a different level of professional baseball. I played independent baseball in the Frontier League, which is still a really strong professional baseball league, just not necessarily affiliated with the professional teams in the MLB. And but you're hoping to sign out of that league into an affiliated team. And but when I was playing in that summer, I did feel like there was probably a little bit of a passion that had left me. And I hate to admit that, but professional baseball, even in the independent level, it's a different game. It's a different camaraderie with your teammates. Your teammates really aren't necessarily cheering for you because they want the spot that you have or that you're trying to get at the same time. And there's not really a coach that's encouraging you or helping you with your swing and his thing as much as, hey, this is your career now. We can be here to an extent, but this is your career. So if you want to make something of yourself, you better go do it.
It's on you.
It's on you. And so, for me, that was just a really big eye opener for a couple different reasons. Number one, I think it was just a little bit of maybe a letdown after being so involved in the college game where the excitement is there and the passion is there. And then also it really motivated me to think about being in the college game on the coaching side, maybe a little bit more than on the professional side, because I love coaching the kids. I love being in the cages. I love being on the field. I love challenging them and being tough on them, but then patting them on the back and rewarding them when they do a good job. Those are the most, fun parts of coaching to me. And the story of how I got into coaching was actually my college hitting coach had recently taken a job at UCF where I ended up working. So preview to the rest of the story. But I called him to congratulate him. I was playing in Ohio outside of Cleveland. And I called him, hey, congrats, happy for you. And we started talking for a few minutes. And he said, well, actually, we have an opening here.
Come on board.
Yeah. Would you be interested? And I had to really, take a step back and think about it because that's a big moment in your life. It's like, okay, am I going to continue to chase the dream, or start my professional career? And really took about 24 hours to think about it. And, for me, I still had a huge passion for the game, but I felt like it was going to be best for my future and for me to make the most impact in the game to start in that coaching career. And that was how I got into it.
That's a great opportunity. I mean, when you go from not knowing where your career is headed and given that opportunity, I'm sure it was difficult, but I think you made the wise decision as you're sitting here today.
No question. And I don't think it's fun for anyone to live with the what ifs or the regrets or anything. Absolutely. And so, you make the best decisions that you can with the information in the moment. And it was a great opportunity to work with a really high level staff and get a start, at a great school, so I don't want to say you're cutting the line, so to speak, but when your first job is an opportunity to get in at a high level Division I, that's a great start to your career. And, from there have just been really fortunate to work with great mentors, great staffs, and develop my own style, with the help of everyone along the way and, continuing to do it here at FIU.
Absolutely. With that being said, let's talk a little bit about your program. How do you base it? What type of coach do you feel you are? Are you a player's coach? Give the audience or maybe even a recruit out there,
sure,
that wants to know a little bit about Coach Witten, what makes you you?
Yeah. Well, I think number one, I love coaching.
Yeah.
And I have said this to anyone who's asked me, what my philosophy is or what my strengths are. If they want someone to be a mayor or a CEO type of head coach, I'm not necessarily going to be that guy.
Right.
I would rather be in the cages working with someone's swing, than giving a big speech at a luncheon. And not to say that that's not part of the job sometimes, but if I had my way about it, that's what I love doing. I love, we're on the phone, last night with recruits after the game. I love talking to recruits. You take advantage of the momentum and a big win. And so, we're talking about watching, a recruit that we're talking to right now, him getting that big walk-off hit a year from now against Miami. And so, I love that part of the job. I love getting to know young men. I love explaining to them what our program's about. Our program's about development, getting you better, maximizing everything that you can do, and having great culture behind it. How you do the things that you do, having great attitudes, being great teammates, improving your leadership skills, understanding all of the game within the game details that it takes to be really successful. And so, for us, it's I don't think there's many teams in the country that hit more than we do, that spend more time on the field, that really break down the X's and O's and the ins and outs of the game. And, for us, I think that's where we're going to find our most success here at FIU because, we're going to have talent walk in the door here. We're centrally located in Miami. We're going to have young, talented baseball players that want to be a part of our program. We're sitting here at this beautiful facility, looking out the beautiful field, overlooking the beautiful campus on top of it, with the beach 20 minutes away and one of the coolest cities in the world right in your backyard with a great baseball program, great facilities, and, a coaching staff that wants to recruit really talented young men, but also, really mature and competitive baseball players that are going to be able to fit what's going to make our program be the most successful. And that's recruiting talented kids with awesome work ethics. And our staff has that. And when you put players and staff members that have those same interests aligned, you're going to have a program that continues to get better and continues to be a national powerhouse.
Absolutely.
How do you get your guys motivated throughout the season? Because it's a long season. But how do you get them motivated, and what type of student athlete do you feel is the one that really fits into your program and into your coaching philosophy?
Well, I think we talk more about discipline than probably motivation, because motivation is what gets you going. Discipline is what keeps you going. No doubt about it. So, early in the season, when you're in opening weekend, everyone in the country is excited to play. Everyone's got energy. Everyone wants to win. Everyone wants to play hard. But when you're 45 games in and you're a week away from final exams and your body's starting to get tired and you just flew back on Sunday night from a late road trip and you've got homework to do and you've got weights on Monday morning and the season starts to accumulate, on your body, on your mind, now where is your discipline? Are you still working the same way? Does your early work still look the same? Or do you still lift with the same intensity? Even the little things. Are you going through stretch the right way? Are you playing catch and getting your arm loose the right way? And so I think it's a standard that our coaching staff has to set to begin with of, hey, this is how we do everything. We do it consistently every single day. And you have to understand what our standard is with everything that we do, from the moment you show up to the ballpark to the moment you leave, and everything you do off the field. What does that standard look like? And once that's been communicated and understood, our older players need to understand what that looks like. And now they're the ones in charge of holding the group accountable. And so now they're holding the younger guys accountable for how things need to work and what the standard looks like for anything that we do. Whether you're in study hall, are you on your phone and not paying attention and not doing the work, or is your phone put aside and you're working on a paper and you're doing the research you need to do? How is it that you do everything is what we want our standard to be here. And so once that standard is set, which was really everything we wanted to accomplish in our first 1 to 2 years is setting that standard and then getting our returners to then pass down that tradition of holding the team accountable. And when we need to as coaches, we'll step in and remind them, hey, we're not meeting the standard right now, and I'm not going to cave on that. And that was actually a talk that they got yesterday, because yesterday's win was a really fun win because obviously it's great to beat Miami, but we hadn't been playing great. And so yesterday was a great reminder of, hey, it's not going to be sunshine and rainbows when we're not playing well and you're not meeting the standards. So I'm never going to back off that. So they didn't get a real warm and fuzzy speech, before the game yesterday. They got a speech that challenged them, but they got a speech that challenged them to do the little things right and work behind the process. And I told them, the wins or the losses, those will come as a result of our process. So let's make sure that everything we do process-based today is at the highest level. Every time we run to first base, we're sprinting to first base. When you're on and off the field, you're running on and off the field. When you're taking ground balls in between innings, you're doing it at high effort and full speed. So everything matters when it comes to how you put in the work. And so, for us, it's about getting to that process-based, system and design. And then as a result of that, the good results will come.
So a little confirmation bias now that you say all of that, because essentially our players get the same exact type of guidance from us. And it's obviously it's different because, again, they're 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. But it goes to how the level of importance that it is to have that mentality and that approach to the game or to anything in general from a very early age.
Yeah, I think our college coach, right? Like he kind of gave us a standard of, hey, when you're playing well, right, that's when I want to bring you down, right? Like I want to get on you because maybe that's when you're not working hard enough, right? And then when you're struggling a little bit, you gotta use a different type of energy, different type of motivation. So I mean that's part of your culture, it seems, and
And in the game, it's not instant gratification.
No.
You put in a good amount of work for a good amount of time, and it's not going to be the next day. It's going to be, it may not even be the next series or the next tournament. It's something that takes a long time.
Yeah. Coach, and how do you kind of bring down the pressure, right? Like it's not like youth baseball, right? Where you go into a tournament, you win, you lose, it is what it is, you move on to the next one. There's a lot of pressure in winning when it comes to high school. To high school, college, beyond where we're at.
Everywhere.
How do you handle it where it's like, okay, you have the pressure, the kids know that they have the pressure, they have to perform. How do you kind of offset that and give them some sort of kind of help, right, to get over that?
I think it's all about perspective. How do you look at things? Are you looking at this as something that you didn't ask for? Because at the end of the day, this is what you asked for. You asked to play Division I baseball. That was your entire dream until you were 18 years old, was to be able to go play Division I baseball with a chance to move on to professional baseball. Well, to have those types of rewards, there are, struggles that you have to go through and that you have to understand, that you have to accept that and take it on your shoulders, because this is what you asked for. And so pressure is a privilege. And I know that's something that has been, talked about amongst coaches, but it is. You asked to come play, in front of thousands of fans with something on the line against great opponents with great teammates around you. This was your dream for almost your entire life, most likely. Now you've got the opportunity to do it. So you look at it as an opportunity, you look at it as excitement, and you look at it as this is what you've asked for. Now you get the opportunity to do it. Go enjoy it. Go enjoy it. And practice gratitude, because
Amen to that.
Yes, we have 4 core values in our program, and I won't dive into them all because I could probably talk about each of them for about an hour. But one of them is gratitude, and we have a tendency to focus more on the things that maybe we don't have, or the things that aren't going well, or the things that we need to do better, instead of looking up and looking for things that we can be grateful for.
God, I love that.
Yes.
I love it. That's what makes this podcast.
Yes, man.
That's what we want out of this, right? Like those things. That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
And so we actually had an exercise that we did, this fall, where it was, hey, look for opportunities to do things for people. Look for opportunities, and I said so every day. We had someone who had to speak. It was every day until every player on the team went. But they had to stand up in front of the team at the end of practice and say one thing that they did for somebody else and one thing that someone did for them. I say, guys, it could be small. Hey, someone let you, they gave you a protein bar on your way to class because you slept in too late or something, or even you held a door for somebody, or maybe you talked to someone about the slider grip in the outfield. And so you look for opportunities, to impact people positively. You look for opportunities to be grateful for the things that you have, and it's easy to show up and say, well, we don't have this or we need to do that, but what are the things that we do have? And I can guarantee if you start looking for that list, it's going to be a lot longer than the things that you don't have. And that's going to help change your perspective on them.
Absolutely. I love it.
I mean,
gratitude and paying it forward. I mean, that's
you hit the nail on the head. That is one of my love languages is that gratitude and pay it forward.
Yeah, it's important. And it also, and when you start to think about those things, the pressure goes away. Like if you start thinking about how can I take care of my teammate, or what can I do for him? What can I do for other people? What are you not thinking about? You.
It's being a servant.
Yes, exactly. Which is another one of our core values.
Oh, yeah?
Service. Yeah. Service. Yeah. Toughness, integrity, service, and gratitude.
I love that.
And so, like I said, I could go into each of those pretty in depth, but maybe on the next one. But anytime you feel that pressure, you're most likely, you're too internal.
Yeah.
And so, if you're getting internal or you're feeling bad about yourself, take care of somebody else. Think about somebody else. What can you do for the program? What can you do for the team? What can you do for a teammate? What can you do for a family member? What can you do for your sibling, your parent, your child? And the second you start focusing on the good that you can do in other ways is the second all of that pressure is off of your shoulders.
That's one of the reasons why we're here.
Yeah.
So we want to play a little game with you, though.
All right.
So part of what we do is obviously give the audience a better understanding of what a coach, a college coach, is looking for, right? Because we have kids that look up to, they want to be able to play here, right? So, and I think the perspective of what it takes to get here is somewhat a little lost.
It can be.
So we want to give them your perspective of when he goes into recruiting. When you go into recruiting, what is it that you're looking for? So I'm gonna give you 6 different characteristics of what you're looking for in players and the whole recruiting process, and you got to list them 1 through 6, right? Most important, least important.
Okay.
All right. So number 1, high school GPA and test scores.
Okay.
All right. High school statistics.
Okay.
Player ranking system.
Okay.
Family and friends.
Okay.
Leadership on the field. And a player's metrics: size, arm strength, speed, power.
Okay, so
we may have to read that back to you.
Yeah,
we'll read it back if you want.
Yeah, so there's a lot of factors that go into it, and I think you have to start with, and I actually don't enjoy talking about, saying this because I wish I could actually give a little bit of a different answer to your audience. But let me get done.
Form it to whatever you feel best.
For us, there are so many baseball players out there that there are certain baselines that you have to be able to meet in order to even have an opportunity here. So I think you have to tie for number 1, GPA and test scores and your skill set, your measurables, your arm strength, your speed, your bat speed, things like that. Because, you could be the best kid in the world with great leadership abilities. And, if you throw 75 miles an hour, I'm going to love having you around as maybe a student manager, but you can't pitch on Friday night for us. And you could be the most talented kid in the world and throw 100 miles an hour. But if you don't have test scores and a GPA that are going to allow you to be a college student here and work towards your degree and appreciate that side of your career, then the NCAA, those are black and white standards. There is a GPA and a test score that you have to meet in order to be NCAA Division I eligible. So I think those two right off the bat go hand in hand, where there is a baseline and a threshold that you have to be a certain, size, speed, skill, ability level to play Division I baseball. And you also have to have a certain level of academic success and academic work ethic and the ability to get into school and to make great grades here and to graduate on time with an awesome degree. So I will probably tie those two together, and then the next one would definitely be the leadership, the communication, the family background, whatever that one was listed as. You know, because that's the next biggest part of the equation is, you know, if we've evaluated your skill set and your academics, because again, you can't have one without the other. This is college baseball. This is not professional baseball yet. We want to get you there. But right now, you do have to have those two things. You have to have a certain level of skill, and you have to have a certain level of academic ability. And then the next factor for sure is we call it makeup. What's your makeup? Which is your work ethic, your attitude, your ability to be coached. How great of a teammate are you? And then from there, you know, ranking and high school statistics are so subjective. And high school statistics, like if you're recruiting a kid from South Florida that plays in high school, and you know he's hitting high 300s or 400, that holds some weight. That's good baseball down here. Yeah. You know, where I'm from in Kentucky, you know, I hit 500 my senior year, and so, but it's a different level of competition, and we understand that as well. So, you know, do statistics help? They help tell a part of the story. You know, but just because you hit 400 in this part of the country or 400 in that part of the country, they can hold a lot of different weight. And then also when it comes to the rankings of, you know, whether it be a PBR or a perfect game or prospect select or anything like that, you know, they don't see every player in the country. They see the players that play at their events the most. And so, you know, if you look onto their website and they've got you listed as a top 100 player, you know, there's something to that. Because somebody along the way who understands the game, you know, at a pretty solid level, you know, has seen you be really good. So there is certainly a part, okay, well, this guy has a skill set. Someone has seen him play really well at some point in time. We need to go get our eyes on him at this point. But if we watch someone who has played in, you know, who's literally unranked, not even in the top, like we've committed kids that aren't even in the top 1,000 players in the country because he's only played in one tournament of that. Of that membership or organization, and he did it when he was 14 or 15 years old. And so he's just simply didn't have the exposure to that system. And then, you know, then he commits to us, and then he gets ranked pretty quickly. It's just funny, you know, funny how that can happen. You know, but I understand that their side of it, you know, they want to be able to help with the recruiting process. They want to be able to help with exposure. I'm certainly not knocking anything that they do. But it's just a piece of the puzzle. The same thing with high school statistics. It's a piece of the puzzle. You don't want to recruit anybody with a 10 ERA or a 200 batting average, but just because someone has, you know, great statistics, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be a fit at the next level. And just because someone's statistics maybe fall a little bit short of someone else, maybe they have a higher ceiling down the road the way you project them with their skill set. So, you know, I would kind of put those in that next tier. And I'm trying to think, was there any other ones that I missed out on? Or did
I think it was.
You memorized all of them.
Yeah.
That was
I had to stay quiet. I mean, I didn't have to repeat.
You got all of
nothing.
them.
You got all of them.
All right.
You got all of them.
Yeah.
So in that same line, when it comes to getting guys ready for the next level that are coming out of your program, how do you go about it? Because we've had discussions about this, and we've actually spoken about this before. There's a lot of guys that we know that played D1, and a lot of the times they've kind of voiced the same thing that program really didn't develop them for the next level, for the professional level. So how do you go about getting your guys ready, the ones that are going to make that jump? How do you go about that?
Well, I think when you centralize player development as the centerpiece to your program, and that's your top priority, I think number one, that's going to help recruits understand what your vision is. And so if you are recruiting a young man and you're explaining to him what our priority is in the recruiting process and what our priority is going to be once you step on campus, that's where you want the vision to align. So if you're recruiting a young man and the first thing on his mind is, I want to become the best player that I can possibly be, and that's in the back of your head, and that's the first thing that the coach says to you is, hey, we centralize everything we do around player development. We want you to walk out of the door here as a totally different guy as when you walk in. I think that's going to help align your ideas amongst the staff and the players, which is going to help you in the recruiting process because that's going to allow you to find the right fit of guys. And further than that, we ask questions in the recruiting process because there is a fit, a good fit, a right fit aspect to the recruiting process. And you want personalities to align with, how we act as coaches and who you want, your players' personalities to be once they get here. And so for us, when we ask a young man, hey, what are your goals when you come here? If the first thing out of their mouth is, I want to be drafted, okay, I could understand where they're coming from, but that's probably not going to be the guy that we want to be here if that's the first thing that comes out of his mouth and his top priority. It's not that I don't want you to get drafted, but there is a process along the way that will lead to that result that you're looking for. And that process is going to start with, number one, you becoming the best player that you can possibly be. Developing your skill sets, number one. And number two, the biggest part of it is making your skill set consistent. Because everybody wants to throw 95, but really what's more important than throwing 95 is throwing 95 every day and where you want to. Is the ability to pitch, the ability to command it, the ability to throw 95 or hit 400-foot home runs with consistency. And it's not, a flash of light here and there. And so we want to develop the skill set, but we also want to have systems and routines in place that allow them to become consistent and not ride the roller coaster of the up and down days and outings and at bats. So, we're very routine based, in our development systems, and they're also very individualized. We tell guys all the time that it's mandatory that you have a routine. You're going to have a routine. That's a standard here. But what that routine is going to be independent and individualized to what type of hitter you are, what type of pitcher you are. We have literally our two of our best hitters right now have two totally different sets of hitting drills that they do. They have different swings. They have different characteristics. They have different, routines that make them prepared to go into the game. And so it's our job to make sure that we're getting the most out of each of those guys. And there's not going to be a cookie cutter system. It's not going to be everybody hits like this, everybody swings like that. You field a ground ball here. This is what your windup looks like. We want to take your strengths, improve on those strengths, make them individual to you, and identify other parts of your game that we can help improve and maybe find some of that low-hanging fruit, so to speak, that we can help improve and get to the next level.
That's awesome because we talked about it all the time. There's a lot of places out there where it's that same mold, and you can have to, no matter how successful you've been in the past, you got to adapt to that system, right? So just hearing that is very refreshing. Understanding that you could come here and you know what, you are you, and there's nobody like you. So we're just gonna help you improve. I mean, I wish I had one more year of eligibility.
So, it's important for our guys to be able to just be developed and coached at the highest level. And that's, if I ask them what their goals are, those are some of the answers that I'm looking for back on the recruiting end. And then really the next couple answers I'm looking for after that, if this doesn't come first to begin with, is I want FIU to win a championship. Like, I want to come here and help FIU win a championship. Because when these are the focuses that you have,
the rest,
your results down the road will come.
Yep.
If everything you're doing is to get drafted, so to speak, then you may not be the best teammate. You may not be building a winning championship culture. You may not be helping other guys and they're helping you and being someone that your teammates are cheering for. And so I want you to be drafted out of here because you wanted to become the best player you could become. So then you wanted to help us win a championship. And because of that, you've become a great teammate. You made the team better. You made your teammates around you better. Now you're playing into the postseason. Now more eyes are on you. Now there's other players on the team that are also getting professional looks, which gets more scouts into the stands, which allows them to see you more often, which allows them to see your teammates more often. And the better players you have, the more likely you are to play into the postseason. So the more likely you are to win a championship. And because of all those things that happen along the way, I bet you get your opportunity to play professional baseball after you've become the best player you can be and you've worked your tail off, you've become the best team you can, you've played into the postseason, you've had all the eyeballs on you. And as a result of all of those processes along the way, those are the guys that we want to be able to move on to professional baseball, and that's how we want it to happen.
And that entire sequence that you just went through starts with the seed of, I want to be the better version of myself as a student and as an athlete.
No question.
Question for you. Biggest coaching moment so far in your career? It's loaded. It's a loaded question.
That's a tough one. You know, I gotta say, when we beat Miami here, you know, playing at Lone Depot Park earlier this season was an awesome opportunity for our players, fans, our staff. I mean, that was a real treat to be able to play them there. Beating them for the first time last year was very memorable, and then beating them at home for the first time in my career last night was certainly very, very, very memorable, because the most fun part about beating them is not for any type of self-gratification. It's for all of the fans and the alumni and the people that, you know, really want to beat Miami. You know, for the FIU fans and the guys that played here, and the supporters and the donors that we have, and the great supporters to our program that take pride in that game. And that game means something to them, and that game holds more weight. And so for us to win those games, you know, those are the games that you know, my phone has the most text messages from afterwards, which is a real thrill, because I understand the excitement that our fans have for that game. And so those are certainly very, very special memories to me.
Absolutely. Coach, with that being said, kind of want to wrap it up with something very generic, but just want to give the audience a vision into what you think your next 5 years for the program, for yourself. What does it look like? What do you want to accomplish in the next 5 years?
No question. Well, we want to be an Omaha team. We want to be a College World Series team. We want to be champions at every level. We want to be Conference USA champions. We want to be NCAA regional champions, and we want the opportunity to go to the College World Series. You know, we're backed with fantastic support. Our administration believes in what we're doing. They're doing everything they can to support us. Our alumni, our fans, our donors, they're pulling their weight at the same time. And, you know, and even on top of it, we're going to continue to ask for more, you know, because of the different landscape that we're going into right now with college athletics and the model that we have now. You know, we need the support and we need the contributions. And so, you know, for us to continue to grow, you know, this, like I said, the support of administration, support of fans, support of donors, support of alumni, those are huge parts to our program growing the way that we want it to. But for us, you know, we have the highest goals here. I wouldn't have taken the job if we weren't going to be a team that I would have considered has the ability to win championships and move on and play at the highest level. That's where I want our program to be. And we're going to keep taking steps to get there. And every year that we're able to put together another recruiting class, that we're able to retain those guys back for another year, it's going to be the standard. It's going to continue to be set higher every single year. And we want to certainly develop a program that has a consistent winning tradition, not a good year here and there, but every single year you're in the mix nationally. Every single year you're at the top of your conference. And if the stars happen to align in the postseason, that's when you're going to make your run. But we want to be able to develop consistent greatness here and always being able to compete at the national level, and helping, you know, number one, local recruits and players from the state of Florida understand that this is a place where you can accomplish everything that you want to. You can get a great degree here. You can be around a great group of guys. You can be around a coaching staff that cares you and loves you, and you're going to get the most out of your game, and you're going to compete for championships. Like, I want, you know, South Florida and the state of Florida in general to understand that's what you get with FIU baseball. But even further than that, we want to be able to have a national brand. You know, we want to be able to go to the Northeast and to the Midwest or to the West Coast and understand that we can recruit talent from anywhere in the country, because this is that special of a place.
I love it. I mean, fits
Great. Yep.
Fits
It's like
what
a
I want to
glove.
hear, right?
Yeah,
So those Sweet Spot kids out there, hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned a lot from Coach Witten. We're gonna work hard to get you to the level of what Coach wants, and hopefully you could be enjoying all of this with Coach and continuing your development with him. Same way we're trying to develop them. So
Absolutely.
Coach, it's been
It's
an
been
honor.
a pleasure.
You know,
Really
very
enjoyed
excited with where the program's at and where it's headed. it's in great hands. So just again, thank you. And
Absolutely.
hopefully we could do this again and talk about great things.
We'll have a part 2.
I love it. I
definitely.
love it. Yeah. And kids out there, fall in love with the game.
Absolutely.
Fall in love with the highs, fall in love with the struggles, fall in love with overcoming, the tough moments, enjoying the great moments, fall in love with the process behind what you're doing, fall in love with extra work, fall in love with staying late, fall in love with everything that baseball has to offer, because it's the older you get, the more you realize how much it's going to represent life. The highs, the lows, the struggles, what the great moments feel like, what you have to do to pick yourself up to get out of the tough moments, and that you're not always rewarded for doing everything the right way. Yep. But when you do it over time, long enough, you're going to be rewarded for it. So fall in love with the game first and work as hard as you can. The rest will take care of it on its own.
And remember gratitude.
And remember gratitude.
And remember gratitude. No
Thank
doubt.
you. Thank you guys for watching another episode of the Sweet Spot Podcast. Please drop a comment, like, subscribe. We're on YouTube, Spotify, iHeart. Hope you enjoyed it.